Welcome to the NintenFusion podcast, a podcast that fuses past, present, and future Nintendo thought. I'm David, accompanied by my friend Jordan.
This week, we're talking about the June 2022 Partner Showcase. And also, Monster Hunter came out recently, and I'm a huge fan of Monster Hunter, so I would like to talk about that as well. Before we get into that, though, was this really a mini direct like Nintendo claimed it to be? It was 25 minutes long.
And it had a huge number of games, to be honest. I think this was a full partner direct rather than just a mini showcase, because there was a lot.
I'm starting to think that what the fans view as a mini is different than what Nintendo views as a mini. We think like mini means a small amount of content, whereas Nintendo, I think, means there's not going to be any like groundbreaking reveals, set your expectations low sort of deal.
I almost wonder if we should start going through all of the old directs and like what was revealed to see if that like holds true. You know, like, did a mini ever have any sort of big groundbreaking announcement or not? I can't think of any, but Nintendo does like to do the one more thing. So I don't know.
Well, I guess it would ultimately depend on if you think Shin Megami Tensei 5 was a groundbreaking reveal, because that did show up in a partner showcase last year or in 2020. I don't remember which. I think it was 2020.
Yeah, I think you're right. I honestly don't remember, though.
It was during the COVID era where we were getting a weird set of directs from Nintendo where the quality could range anywhere from Shin Megami Tensei 5 to the big game being WWE, the mobile game or something.
Yeah, that was a weird era. But hey, at least we got a good amount of stuff, right? Like in this one, even if it's nothing officially from Nintendo themselves. But what's really odd is like our prediction was wrong, Jordan.
We were way off.
We were way off. We thought we'd be getting some nice big Nintendo Direct with at least a couple of things, you know, like some sort of look at the next Zelda game, maybe an announcement for Mario or Donkey Kong. But Nintendo pulled a Nintendo and just didn't give us any sort of first party information at all, other than small trailers and updates this month for like Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
It seemed almost like Nintendo is trying to sidestep around their financial like meeting and all that with their financial directors and all that.
Right, because they had that on like the 29th of June or something. So they didn't want to do some sort of announcement and have everybody be upset at a lack of content. Because, I mean, given the lack of an actual direct makes me think that there's really not much that's coming very soon. Or if there is, it's coming for like the next iteration of the Switch or something.
I think the 2022 pipeline is pretty dry. Losing Zelda really hurt this year. At the beginning of the year, we were saying, oh, this is going to be another 2017. And now I'm looking at it like, I don't know. Like 2017 was a game industry defining year. And
across the industry, not just from Nintendo.
Yeah, and was a triple S tier year. This is going to end probably in the B tier. Like, it's good. It's not a drought or anything. We're getting Pokemon. We're getting Splatoon. We got a new look at Kirby, and there's also Xenoblade. That's a pretty healthy lineup of games with a good variety. But there's nothing that's like huge for the general consumer, aside from, I guess, Pokemon.
Right. Like everything Nintendo's releasing this year, including from this partner showcase, I think hits every single type of, you know, gaming fan. If you enjoy a particular genre, there's definitely a game for you this year, but there is no Zelda. There is no Mario. There is no big, huge Nintendo game that everybody's going to want to play and enjoy. As much as I love Splatoon 3, Splatoon 3's popularity is much bigger in Japan than it is here in the US, even though there are a lot of people that really love and enjoy it. It's just not one of those forever staples.
Splatoon will still sell about 10 million copies. Like,
absolutely.
Splatoon's still a juggernaut. Let's not downplay it.
No.
We're not going to see Nintendo make a big presence at the Game Awards at the end of this year.
No. Which is a shame, but...
Which is a bit of a bummer, but yeah.
Yeah.
They might be able to... Well, actually, I was going to say they might take Best RPG, but Elden Ring's this year, so... Right. Sorry, Xenoblade.
As excited as I am for Xenoblade, even after the absolute perilous 2 times trying to get the special edition... Oh, that was a nightmare. Still, even after Nintendo was like, oh, sorry, we're not going to do it. What was it? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? They were like, we'll have it out at a later date. They announced the day before it went live that it was going to be live, but they didn't announce a time. And then they just like threw it up on the store and everyone was scrambling to get in. And of course, as soon as they threw it up, they didn't actually have more infrastructure set up and ready to go, more resources to handle everybody. So half of us got frozen on the cart checkout page waiting for random things to be confirmed by other services. Like, I know some people that were stuck on the select a shipping option. Other people were waiting on the credit card being processed. I was stuck on having my address verified as a real address. And it was a nightmare. Fortunately, after literally 5 hours, they finally had more resources and we were all able to get our pre-orders, and I have mine. But I can't believe that a company like Nintendo would have something as big as Xenoblade on their store and just not be ready for it.
Yeah. Nintendo's summer this year is actually pretty active, more so than most years. Like in June, we got Fire Emblem Three Hopes, Monster Hunter, and Mario Strikers. Three Hopes has a very, very specific audience. Strikers was a bit of a disappointment to a lot of people, just because they're just it did what Mario Sports Titles does and didn't have any content at release.
But the promise of more content at a later date.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good approach.
No,
because like so many people are just going to skip out and be like, well, if the content's not there, then I'll just get it later, and then most of them won't, because like the hype is gone by the time that the content is there. Like who are you like servicing by releasing the game too early and not having the content at release?
They're shareholders,
I guess. They just need a little bit of a bump. But and then Monster Hunter is good, but that's like not Nintendo internal. That is a partnership with Capcom, and Rise is no longer an exclusive, so it's also on PC, but it is a console exclusive, so it's still a pretty big release. And then next month we get Xenoblade, which is going to be the biggest release for Nintendo during the summer. But I'm expecting, I think this one will probably outsell Xenoblade 2. It'll probably hit around the 3 million mark is what I'm expecting. So.
I think so too. And it'll definitely outsell Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Yeah. At least initially. Yeah.
It will be an easier game to sell with the character designs. So about Xenoblade 2, but it has some choice character designs. Let's just say that.
I'm not arguing there.
Which can make it a bit difficult to market it in Western markets. So
yeah. But hey, looking forward to it. Anyway, Jordan, you brought up Monster Hunter Rise. The Sunbreak DLC launched, right?
Yeah, so we got Sunbreak, which is this Monster Hunter's major expansion. We claim that this is like a thing Monster Hunter does, but really they've only done it with World and with Sunbreak. Before this, what they would do is they would do the fighting game approach, where they would just re-release the game as an Ultimate Edition or something. This is a much more consumer-friendly approach. There are some people online complaining that, oh, there's a new rank here, so I have to grind out new armor sets. It's like, man, I remember when Ultimate came out for Try, and it's like an entirely new game. You have to go through all 3 ranks, not just one. But so yeah, Sunbreak and Iceborne are definitely a better approach to go about it. I like Sunbreak. I'll start off with that. It's good. It's not what I wanted, though. I feel that it's a bit lacking. So like, I'm not disappointed. I'm just not satisfied, I think is the best way to say it.
Okay.
So because it's more Rise, and Rise is good. I think my biggest issue is the pacing in it is very weird, and that there's not a lot of new monsters, and the new monsters they added, they wanted to go for like the big bombastic monsters, and those typically have a higher difficulty curve to them. So they're jammed at the end of the DLC, which means the entire beginning of the DLC is just monsters you've already fought in the base game.
That seems disappointing, honestly, even though I haven't played it.
We got 4 new monsters, which feels a bit low. But the 4 new monsters they added are some of my favorite monsters in the entire franchise. They added a werewolf dragon that is really, really cool, where it transforms when it like howls and stuff, and like night like effects happen and all that stuff.
That's super cool.
It seems like the 4 monsters they chose are themed around monsters from like horror films or whatever. So you have like King Kong as like a giant rock ape. That's the first one. And then like a werewolf dragon, and then a vampire dragon. And I don't know what the 4th one is, but I'm sure it's going to be, well, the vampire dragon actually might be the 4th one, but it's in all the cutscenes, so you know it's coming. So I only just got through the werewolf dragon. So I'm in Master Rank 4, and I've been told the story ends around Master Rank 6, and that there are 7 Master Ranks. So I'm working through it. I do like getting more armor sets, more things to grind, more weapons and all that. And then on top of the 4 new monsters, we also got 7 returning monsters. 2 of them from Monster Hunter 2, and since I haven't played Monster Hunter 2, they're basically new to me. And then the rest were from like Frontiers 4 and Generations, which it's good to move those off of those older games, especially since 4 and Generations are locked to the 3DS, so it's nice to have it on a system with good controls. So if you're newer to Monster Hunter, you effectively got 11 new monsters in this game. But if you've been playing around, I technically got like 6 new monsters, because I've never played against the Daimyo and its variant from Monster Hunter 2. Switch skills, they added, so in Monster Hunter Iceborne, we got like new mechanics for the grapple hook, which was awesome. It changed like the entire like structure of how you approach fights. And in this one, we got switch skills, which you can choose like your moves or whatever, sort of like in Smash Bros with the Mii's or whatever. You can like choose the moves that the Mii's have. In this game, you can do that with basically all the hunters. And the switch skills now allow you to have 2 sets of moves. And in the middle of the fight, you can switch to a different set. And I don't feel like that has as much of an impact as the changes to grapple hooks in Iceborne. Really, I think the reason why I'm not super satisfied with this game is because it's not as big of an expansion as Iceborne. It's good. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. I have put a lot of hours this week, probably close to like 50 or so already since its release on Thursday. But I wish there was just more, and I wish the pacing was better.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer to hear. I know you were super excited for it. Again, I know you said that it's good, but going into these types of things, especially when it's a series or a game that you really love, you really do hope that DLC is like significant. Especially since it seemed like they were hyping up quite a bit more new stuff than it seems they delivered. Am I accurate with that?
Yeah, and we still got 2 new maps. Technically 1 new map and 1 returning map, but the returning map was from Monster Hunter 2 and no one's played that game. So effectively 2 maps.
Wait, so they just took a map from Monster Hunter 2 and just put it in Monster Hunter Rise?
Yeah.
Does that happen often?
There's a lot more work into it because like you have to like update it and everything. Like Monster Hunter 2 was on the PS2.
Right, but I mean, do like maps typically return?
Not that I know of. Like Iceborne only added 1 new map though, if I remember right. So the fact that we got 2 maps is actually a good rate in this one.
Well, that's good. But I can imagine somebody that has hundreds of hours of playing even just this one game would be pretty upset that they have to fight the same monsters at the beginning.
Yeah. And like you have to put them in there just because of how the game works, right? So like you have to have a master rank version of all these monsters. So, and like they do get new moves. Like they're not exactly the same fight. But it is a bit disappointing, especially since a large amount of Monster Hunter Rise's monster catalog is from World, which I just recently got out of. And I imagine that was because like this game is pretty close to the engine of Monster Hunter World. So they just were able to port monsters over fast to it. But it is a bit disappointing to be fighting a lot of repeat content effectively.
That makes sense. But you would rate this like pretty highly out of all the Monster Hunter content you've played.
Yeah, so I would say as an expansion, it's probably about a 7.5. If you have Monster Hunter Rise and enjoyed Monster Hunter Rise, just get it, just play it. It's a good time. If you didn't like Monster Hunter Rise, this is going to do nothing to change your opinion.
I also have to point out to our listeners that a 7.5 from Jordan is actually really high praise. I know we gave like Metroid Dread a perfect 10 and a couple of other games we've reviewed on this channel, perfect 10s. But like Jordan really does believe that 5 is like, totally fine and average. So a 7.5 is pretty good.
Yeah. A 5 is a game I'd play on my scale.
Well, that's good. It's good. Anything else you want to say about Monster Hunter Rise here? I haven't played it, of course. I know I would be super into Monster Hunter if I gave it a chance, but I just
and this is also the best one to start as a new player. I'm still astonished at how good the netcode is on this game. Say what you will about Monster Hunter Rise, but it has better netcode than Monster Hunter World does. Like, it's more stable to play online on the Switch than it is to play on PC on World, which is astounding to me because it's the Switch. I think this is probably the game on the Switch that has the best netcode, period.
That's fascinating because you said the same thing about like Mario Party.
Mario Party is pretty good, but it's nowhere near this good. And like Mario Party is a much more simpler game than Monster Hunter, which I am seriously blown away at how well the game runs on the Switch, considering the Switch is showing its age for a lot of other games. And like this game was built ground up for the Switch, so that's great. But they really knocked it out. I don't know what black magic they pulled to get it to work. But yeah, speaking of aging Switch hardware, we have some rumors, right, David?
Yeah, we do have some rumors. So, like literally this morning, Nintendo straight up announced a new version of, well, I shouldn't say new version, more like a new type of Switch OLED that you can buy. Everything on the inside is exactly the same as the Switch OLED, but it is themed after Splatoon 3, which is really cool because it's the first themed Switch we've had since Animal Crossing, I believe. And it's the first one for the Switch OLED. And honestly, like, I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, Jordan. The Joy-Cons are like the best looking Joy-Cons Nintendo's made. Like, You should look at a picture of it. It looks so cool. The dock is also themed around Splatoon 3, and it looks like really cool. But what's really interesting about this like announcement is there was a leaker that just, I imagine, a few days ago or a few weeks ago, actually predicted the Switch OLED model, which nobody was calling or understanding, and the date that it would be announced, which turned out to be true on both cases, and then also claims that an upgraded model of the Switch itself, maybe the successor, the next generation, whatever, is actually going to be coming out later this year, or at least announced later this year, which is honestly kind of insane. Jordan and I have been predicting that Nintendo would probably announce it this year and release it next year. And Breath of the Wild 2 is being held back specifically because of this, right, Jordan?
I don't think Breath of the Wild is being held back specifically for this, but I think it was just like a happy accident sort of thing. Like
to take advantage of it.
Yeah. I think Zelda got delayed because of internal developments for Zelda, and it wasn't because of like a Switch 2 like some people are claiming. Yeah. But I could also see them being like, well, that would be a good time to release it with the Switch 2 or whatever. At the same time, though, I imagine they would have chosen a different game to be like the launch title for the Switch 2. I don't know. Maybe not. It's always weird. I think so. Like with the Switch 1, Zelda being a multi-console release worked really well for the Switch because like it just kept people who were loyal enough to Nintendo to not be angry, but no one owned a Wii U. So it was basically like a new console release, right? But with the Switch 2, if Zelda is the launch game, how many people are going to have that be the reason that to go switch to the Switch 2 when like 100 million people have a Switch 1 already? Right.
I know that in like some of my own friend circles and whatnot, they're honestly like not looking forward to the Switch 2 being announced soon. Really? Because they just purchased a Switch.
Oh.
So It's weird.
That's fine. They can they have an entire catalog of games to catch up on, and they can buy a Switch 2 5 years from now. They clearly were able to wait 5 years for a Switch 1.
So I just pulled up a little bit more about this leak just so that I had more accurate information. And from what seems to be happening, this actually comes from a factory worker. The factory worker actually mentioned way back in April that Nintendo was working on the themed OLED Switch for Splatoon, and also mentioned a brand new Switch model. Those are the only two like leakers really that have this kind of credibility when it comes to the Nintendo Switch hardware itself, because this was also the same source that leaked the Switch Lite backplate before it was even announced. So the fact that they got the Switch Lite backplate years ago and this themed OLED Switch gives a lot more credibility to this rumor, and they seem to imply that it's coming out this year. So and I just thought that was really fascinating. Yeah. Especially since, as we've been talking about quite a bit, the Switch is just certainly showing its age when it comes to its power. And it wasn't that powerful when it launched in 2017.
Yeah. It was a budget tablet for 2016. So the thing that I think Nintendo has kind of made me really skeptical about anything like rumblings going on in hardware space, because the way he words it, where it's a new model and it's going to be something that they announce in September, right before Pokemon. I don't think this is going to be a Pro or a Switch 2. I'm thinking that it's just going to be an OLED Switch Lite at this point.
An OLED Switch Lite. That's totally possible.
And they're going to announce it as like a Pokemon like tie-in or whatever, and there'll be a special edition Pokemon OLED Switch Lite for kids who want really nice screen quality. I don't know. The OLED makes more sense to be on the Switch Lite than on the Switch anyway, right?
I totally agree, because the smaller screen, the fact that you can only play in handheld mode, I mean, it fits perfectly. Plus, it kind of follows the pattern Nintendo's done with their handhelds of trying to have like a smaller, cheaper model of any sort of new revision that they do. Like the regular DS came out with the 2DS, and then they did the 3DS, and then they did the 2DS XL. Like they're always trying to push for those like kind of cheaper versions of their hardware. What's also interesting, though, about these rumors is recently there was a new trademark filed through the European Union Intellectual Property Office, and the trademark is a registered name for NSW, which is likely an acronym that has Nintendo Switch and then something for W.
It's the Nintendo Switch Wii U.
I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, to be fair, like I was talking with some friends the other day about how it would be really quite cool if you could connect two Switches together, have one broadcast the TV, and then have like the tablet screen from the Wii U on another Switch.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only way to get some, well, I was going to say it's the only way to get some Wii U games out, but like what Wii U games are left to get to the Switch, actually?
The Zelda games, but those don't really need the gamepad.
I guess Nintendo's approach was, instead of like make hardware to make this work with an emulator, we're just going to remake all the games.
Yeah. I mean, the only one that's really still trapped that could benefit at least somewhat from the touchpad is Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the only one that's left.
Yeah, the only games I can think on the Wii U that need to be brought over are the remakes for Zelda, which should be easy to bring over, and Xenoblade X. Is there anything else? Hashtag FE made it. Like, that still just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's still crazy. But anyway.
Oh, I guess Star Fox Zero is the other one.
Oh, yes.
I'm a fake Star Fox fan. It's been confirmed.
We literally talked about that like 2 episodes ago. But anyway, regarding the like new Switch hardware, if there is something that's launching this year, it is likely that it's just a mini OLED.
Yeah. Well, like with an OLED mini, it can't be a pro, because like you were saying, your friends are a little upset with the idea of a new Switch being announced, right? Because it would invalidate their purchases. Imagine if they did a pro this fall and then next spring did the Switch 2. Like it would, people would be outraged. But with an OLED mini, it's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like I got it for my kid, and they're not going to get a Switch at release, a Switch 2 at release anyway. Like they got it for Pokemon. Whenever Gen 10 comes out, that's when I'll get a Switch 2. That's the kind of audience I'll end up picking up an OLED Switch mini, I think.
Right.
So it aligns. Like I don't see it being we need like a Zelda is definitely okay. So I know I'm going to contradict myself, because earlier I said I don't think Zelda is the launch title. I want to rephrase that. I think Zelda is the launch title. I don't think it was planned to be the launch title. I think they have something else that they initially planned to be the launch title, and that probably got bumped for Zelda to now lead the charge. Because like, I think Zelda's going to be big, but it's not going to like be it's not going to force a lot of people to switch over from their Switch 2. People who are going to switch over to the Switch 2 initially are going to be the people like you and I, who are enthusiasts, who want a little bit more oomph with our machines when we're playing Bowser's Fury.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just for like Breath of the Wild 2. And like, we'll also want it. But like the average consumer of Nintendo products is going to be like, why am I going to get a new console just for Zelda when I can just play it on the Switch 1? Which ultimately for the consumers is better, because then it's not going to be like this mad rush with like scalpers and everything for the Switch 2. Like it still is going to be, but it won't be as drastic.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And to be fair, if like we are actually getting the Switch 2 next year, it could explain why the upcoming games pipeline is seemingly pretty dry. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay Xenoblade and Splatoon. Don't get me wrong. I'm super excited for those games. But considering we know hardly anything about what's happening next year, and Nintendo didn't give us a trailer, it could be possible that Nintendo is like stepping back a little bit from some of their upcoming releases to focus on optimization of the games for the base Nintendo Switch, so that everyone that still has a Switch can still buy the games, but then also have separate builds for the Switch 2 that can take advantage of the the upcoming processing. I don't think that the upcoming games will have different boxes that they come in. Like Breath of the Wild 2 will just be Breath of the Wild 2 and it'll say Nintendo Switch. But when you plug it into your console, then it will try to download like additional resources or something for the Switch 2 or something like that.
I think that they're going to have to do something about that, actually. Especially for the games that are not going to be backwards compatible to the Switch 1. I think they're going to have to do something like what the 3DS did, where they had a little bump or whatever.
Yeah, only on new Nintendo 3DS.
Well, not only just that, but also the change in cartridges between the 3DS to the DS, right?
Yeah.
Because that was a generational
the extra
gap.
Notch.
Because the 3DS was still backwards compatible. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be much performance like increase internally developed for Breath of the Wild 2, specifically for the Switch 2. I think it's going to be designed to be a Switch game, and you can also run it on the Switch 2, and your loadings screens will not be a full minute. They'll be like 10 seconds. And that'll be like the big upgrade.
So like comparing how the Wii U version of the game right now compares to the Switch version right now.
Like they didn't make any like Switch specific stuff for Breath of the Wild, right?
No, they didn't. In fact, they scrapped a lot of game mechanics so that it could run on Switch.
Yeah. So I think I think it's just going to be a Switch game that happens to release at the same time as Switch 2, which is also why I kind of think there might be something else that's Switch 2 exclusive. But whatever like the big game was, I think is getting pushed back. Which my guess is it's Mario. I think Mario is going to be the holiday game for next year. At this point.
I mean, considering how hard they went with Bowser's Fury and how it struggled on the Switch, if the Mario team is going hardcore on this like small addition to a re-release, they might be going hard on the follow-up to Odyssey.
I also think that the Metroid Prime 4 is going to end up being a Switch 2 exclusive. I don't think it's going to be on the Switch.
Yeah, I can see that.
It hasn't been released or announced what console it is for yet. So they have the option to do it this way, and they're just going to do it this way. Metroid is a game that's more interested in pushing the hardware more than other Nintendo franchises. It doesn't do it all the time, but Retro has shown in the past that they are willing to do it.
Yeah, they pushed the Wii really hard.
Yeah.
And that was like in the middle of the Wii's life.
So I could see Retro jumping for a new console with more power for their game.
I mean, and just a total aside, I think that like Metroid Prime 3 was one of the only games where I distinctly noticed the sound of the fan on my Wii.
I distinctly noticed the fan on my Switch every time I play Monster Hunter. But
well, there you go. Anyway, we'll have to see what happens with the hardware for sure. We just thought that, our listeners might be interested to know what we think about some of these rumors. And of course, we'll keep you updated on it because, again, like Jordan said, we're enthusiasts. We care about this kind of stuff. But anyway, anything else you want to point out about Switch 2?
What will they do for their like Switch 2 exclusive launch title? Is it Fire Emblem? Do you think it could be? They could release Fire Emblem in the same like general area as Breath of the Wild. There's not a lot of overlap there.
Considering we haven't gotten a trailer for it and we basically know that it's done, that's possible. Though, I don't know. Would they make it the Switch 2 exclusive?
It has to be big enough to get like people to move over to the Switch, but it can't be so big that it's eating some of like Breath of the Wild's lunch, right?
It's a good question. I honestly don't know.
They could do F-Zero.
They could do F-Zero, though.
F-Zero would be a really good franchise to like show off specs of a new console.
Okay, but did you see like earlier this week, there was like a posting where apparently some investor asked Nintendo why there hasn't been an F-Zero remake or re-release. And they were like, we cannot accommodate all franchises.
You know what? I'm going to call it. The launch title for the Switch 2 will be Pikmin 4.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's a franchise that weirdly pushes like the image of a new console. And I'm going to also say it won't make the release of like the console, even though they'll say like it'll be in the launch window. It'll be like a month or two after. And Breath of the Wild 2 will basically be holding it up on its own with no actual.
What are you talking about? We'll also get like Puyo Puyo Tetris 3.
Oh, all right. And Bomberman R3.
Yeah. Even though Bomberman R2 was announced this week for Switch.
Speaking of partner showcase.
Yeah, I was trying to see if we could transition to that.
We got the partner showcase mini, which was 24 minutes. And it's definitely longer than like a lot of Nintendo Directs, actually. So I don't know if mini is the best word for that. But there was, while the like announcements were good, I'd say this was a good Direct. There was nothing earth shattering, like mini in terms of mini expectations.
Right. Something to just let people know that there are still games coming out for Switch this year, even if they're not from Nintendo themselves.
So one of those was Bomberman R2, and I will not be getting this game.
Nope, I don't care either. As much as I love Bomberman the character, and I think that he's like a cool little dude, I just don't care for that kind of gameplay.
They didn't really sell on like why I should get this instead of Bomberman R, and they're like, oh, but there's a new mode of 15-on-1. It's like, I don't see that being fun.
Yeah. It's like those 3v1 Mario Party mini games, except like, I don't know how well you can balance the 15-on-1 or whatever.
So, yeah, that's a pass for me. Konami's not very good anymore anyway. So moving on. I don't think our notes are in order. So we're just going to go by our notes, which is a random shotgun approach of what we want to talk about with the
some of the big things that we thought that were interesting, at least.
So we're starting off big with Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. It is amazing that this partnership still exists, but like no one seems to like be fazed by it anymore. Like everyone just assumes that it's pretty normal at this point.
It's totally fine that the Rabbids are hanging out with Mario characters. It looks really cool. And we didn't get a ton of information in the Direct Mini or in the partner showcase. We got quite a bit more at like Ubisoft's presentation, I think like the next day. And there are a lot of really cool things about the combat in it. One of the things that really stuck out to me was that you're not really bound to a grid system anymore. You basically can just move freely within a particular zone of reach, and then you do your actions. And I just think that's going to add a lot more strategy to how you like take on the game. I think it looks like a worthy sequel for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It'll do fine. It'll be good. It'll be enjoyable. I hope, have they announced if Grant Kirkhope is back for the music?
Yeah. And I think that they got 3 different people working on it beyond just Grant, and they're like all stars. I'll do a quick search real fast.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm excited. The first Mario & Rabbids was a pleasant surprise. Everyone thought it was going to be an absolute garbage fire, but it ended up actually being good. The people making it are huge fans of Mario. There is a bit of Ubisoftness to it, but it's fine. The first game definitely felt like it had a B tier budget to it, unfortunately. And so I hope that they have a bit more of a budget for this one and that they are allowed to flesh out some more depth to their ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. So they did reveal the composers. Grant Kirkhope is, of course, returning, so that's freaking awesome. They have a newcomer with Gareth Coker. I'm not sure what he's worked on. I know what he worked on. He worked on Ori and the Blind Forest.
Okay, that was
and really Halo Infinite.
Okay.
So
yes,
he's a big deal. And then honestly, like as much as I love those two and their soundtracks, I'm also really excited because they also announced that Yoko Shimomura is joining the team. She is the composer for Kingdom Hearts, Streets of Rage, a bunch of Final Fantasy music, and she was the composer for like Super Mario RPG and Mario and Luigi Paper Jam and a couple of other games in Mario. Like,
all right, I'm calling it now. Gino is in the game. We're getting Rabid Gino, not real Gino.
I mean, I could see it.
But oh man, wild, and I don't know if people would be upset or happy. Which is why they would do it. How did you get in Mario and Rabbids and not Smash Bros? I could see it happening, actually. Oh no.
It's really cool though. I'm quite excited to see that lineup and hear all of their music because they are great.
Yeah, composers, that's an S tier cast of sound directors.
For real.
A wide variety of like style to them.
Yeah, you've got the RPG-ness, you've got the more Western takes from the 2 British composers, you've got the quite a bit more playful stuff that Grant Kirkhope does, and then you've got like the epic scores from Gareth Coker. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how all 3 of them like are able to tell a really cool cohesive story. Really cool.
So if anything, the music is going to be phenomenal. I'm pretty excited for this. It's going to be a game I'll get, and it'll probably end up being an 8 out of 10 for me.
I mean, XCOM games are pretty good, right?
Yeah, XCOM's pretty good. And I honestly like Mario and Rabbids more than XCOM.
I don't think you're alone in that.
We also saw more of Sonic Frontiers on Switch. If you're planning on getting this on Switch instead of a different system, God help you. I'm so sorry.
I know people get things on Switch for convenience and they probably won't care about graphics, but like, I'm sorry. Like, I really am.
I think this is going to be a rough experience on Switch. It does not look optimized at all.
No.
It doesn't look optimized for like PS5 and PC.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I don't know. I don't have too many opinions on this because I'm probably not going to play it. I'm not a big Sonic fan like you are.
I'll play it. I'm excited. I'm hoping for it to either be absolutely horrible or really good. If I'll be disappointed if it's average, if it's a very middling experience. I'm ready for either a dumpster fire or to be pleasantly surprised. You're
looking for Sonic 06 or Sonic Mania.
Yeah. So one weird thing about, I believe Sonic Frontiers got, I heard this from a friend, so like maybe this isn't the best source, but they got the comic writer for the Sonic comics to write this story. And people really like his stories, actually. Like he wrote like a very interesting arc in the comic where like everyone's turning into zombies and stuff because Sega gave him a bunch of limitations, like people can't die and all this stuff, and people have to always win. And so he's like, well, zombies aren't dead. So he actually made like a real like emotional story for Sonic in the comics. And I believe I was told that he's also working on the story for this game, but we'll see. Maybe it won't be Sonic 06 levels of awful.
I just looked it up for you, and that's correct. Okay. It's Ian Flynn, and he was the writer for Sonic the Hedgehog for about 130 issues. Though, unfortunately, it seems that Sega provided the story, backstory, plot beats, and usable characters, and he had to work his way around
They're giving him more limitations, but he was able to work with limitations before, so we've got hope.
I know. But, like, if Sega's still controlling the plot beats, we'll have to see. Anyway, yeah. I think it'll be a fun game. Anyway.
Yeah, I'll get it for PC.
You're going to put that, you have a 3080 to good use?
Yeah. It'll still run like garbage. But
yeah, probably. All right, what else was announced?
One game that people are talking about, but like I don't feel like enough people are talking about, Blank. It was the game with like the deer and the fox, and it looked adorable. It's a co-op asymmetric sort of game that's slowly been popping up as a genre, and because we had A Way Out, I think it was called, and then we got the game that won Game of the Year last year. I'm drawing a blank. The divorce game.
It Takes Two.
It Takes Two, yeah. This is kind of, I believe, in the same vein as those, and it's one that I'll probably end up picking up. It looks pretty fun, or at least
all of the assets are completely hand drawn and like it looks beautiful. Shaded. It looks so cool.
It looks so beautiful. And that's how you make a Switch game at this point, right? An indie game with a stylistic approach.
Yeah, that's how you get people. And then you don't have to worry about performance concerns because they're just rendering hand-drawn stuff rather than trying to do crazy things.
Yeah, it's adorable. I plan to play that with probably a roommate, and I'm going to choose the little wolf because I'm sure it's going to have to eat the deer in the end. I don't know. It'll probably end up being pretty sad.
Yeah.
We also got a new Monkey Island game, which is surprising. Point and click adventures are slowly clawing themselves out of the grave. And this is a new one. It's not just like a remake or anything. This was actually pretty big news, and it seems to have gone under the radar for a lot of people. Monkey Island's a pretty popular series, so I was kind of surprised that not a lot of people were talking about how we're effectively getting a new one.
Yeah, Return to Monkey Island. And it looks really cool. I mean, the art style looks really fascinating, and I don't know, all about being a pirate, a swashbuckling adventurer. It'll be cool. I think it'll be really good. And I think that like point and click adventures, have kind of grown in popularity because our generation is now like making games quite a bit more and directing them. And we grew up with like Putt Putt and Freddy the Fish, I
love those games as a kid.
Those are so great as a kid. In fact, the Steam sale, Jordan, you should hop on. You can get the entire collection of those games for like 50% off right now. Like every single one of them.
My cousin was getting into like speedrunning of one of the Pajama Sam games and had his time down to like 17 seconds. And he was like,
oh, the speedruns are insane.
It was just like, click, 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 click. I'm like, I don't even like see what's going on anymore. This is.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that Return to Monkey Island will be a great game. Cool to see it coming on Switch. So, another game that was announced for release was Nier Automata, the End of Yorha edition. And like, I think that I would be a Nier Automata fan if I actually played the games. They look really cool to me, and I think the combat's cool. I mean, I really like Kingdom Hearts and a lot of the like Tales type games, so I think that I would fit right into the genre. It is a JRPG, a JRPG, so definitely not for Jordans.
It is a JRPG, but I've heard that it's very stylistic JRPG in its game design, so it might be interesting. I might eventually play around with it. But I don't think I'll get it on Switch. I'm sorry.
Yeah, pretty sure the same edition, The End of Yorha, is also on PC already. So,
like, this is another game where, yeah, we're ready for the next generation of Switch. But like, there's so many options for this game out and about that it's fine. If you really want a handheld version of this game and don't have access to a Steam Deck, this is the best way to go about it.
Yeah. But yeah, you can get Nier Automata Game of Yorha right now on Switch or on Steam.
On Steam.
So.
It's a pretty big game. I think this would have been cooler closer to the release of Nier Automata. Nier came out in what, 2017, 2016?
I don't recall. I think that's about right, though.
It seems a bit late to the party.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's cool to have on handheld for sure. I know a lot of people really love the characters in the game, and the story's pretty good too. So, on top of that, another one that was at least interesting to me was Pac-Man World Repack, the remake of Pac-Man World. It seems, just as a little side note, I saw a Twitter thread that's like, I know why they had to remake Pac-Man World and not just remaster it. Miss Pac-Man is gone. Like, they showed Pac-Man's family, and it's not Mrs. Pac-Man. It's like, her name is like Pac-Man's wife.
What?
And she doesn't have the bow. She's like a totally different character.
I mean, there's been a lot of copyright issues with the character Miss Pac-Man.
Exactly. I'm sure that's like
because
why.
She wasn't made by Namco. She was made by hackers in America who hacked a game of Pac-Man. If I remember right.
I believe you're right. I think I saw this in a documentary.
And then they ended up licensing out their modded version, like it's of the game. But they forgot to take the rights to the name.
Yeah.
And the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Pac-Man World 2 on the GameCube. I thought that it was like a really fun world, kind of fun little get from the start to the finish of like a little bit of exploration, 2D platforming or 3D platforming, excuse me. And I might give Pac-Man World Repack a try, but I would be more excited if it was Pac-Man World 2 being remade.
I am very excited. I am unreasonably excited for this game.
Really?
I played so much Pac-Man World 2 on the GameCube back when I was a kid. Like you, I have never played this game, but if it's anything like World 2, then I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that like this might be a sign that Namco is interested in returning to some of their earlier masterpieces, because I know that there are a lot of big fans of Pac-Man World, the first one, and that it's like really great game. So I am excited to give it a try. It just makes me hope that it sells well enough that they remake Pac-Man World 2 as well.
Yeah. I mean, like now that they have the engine and stuff, I'm sure Pac-Man World 2 is coming.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I love the soundtrack in that game too. Like, yeah. I played it so much. I played it first on PlayStation 2 at my grandma's house before we had our GameCube. And then we got the GameCube and I was like, oh, it's also on GameCube? Heck yes. And I got it. And I've played it. I haven't 100%ed it because some of those fruits are just like so hard to find. But it's so good. So fun. And it should be good. Beyond Pac-Man World, we also have... They just announced, like for a same day release, I believe, the Portal Companion Collection launching on Switch. It marks Portal on like every console now, right?
Yeah. It's just more proof that like Valve just doesn't care about competition or anything. No. Like they released the Steam Deck this year and they're like, oh, we should also like put our like biggest game we've ever made on the Switch as a portable game when like we already had a portable Portal on our own system.
I know. It's so funny. I love the Portal games. Portal 1 was just so much fun, and I got into Portal 2 when I was like a freshman in college, and I love the games. They are so fun, and I'm excited for a lot of people to play them that have never played them before. I think that there are going to be a lot of like kids and teenagers that have heard about the games that will actually pick it up because it's on Switch now. So
Portal 1 and 2 are S tier games. They are
absolutely
I would say Portal 1's a 9 out of 10 and Portal 2 is a 10 out of 10. Like Portal 2,
I would agree with that.
Portal 2 feels like the full game and Portal 1 feels like a demo.
Well, Portal 1 was basically a demo. There were only like 12 levels or something.
I think Portal 1 was just showing off their engine, source engine.
Look at this. We can connect the world together and you can see through the portal. Like, so cool.
It was a masterclass in game design. And then Portal 2 is just also a masterclass in game design and a masterclass in storytelling. Like, it's one of the best stories in gaming. Well, best writing. I really, really like the dialogue in that game. It's so hilarious.
Absolutely. Especially like the dialogue that happens during gameplay. So not just in like the cutscenes and stuff, but like as you're walking around, characters will talk and it's good.
It feels reminiscent of the old point and click adventure games, but it's not a point and click adventure. It's a puzzle game. Yeah,
it's a 3D puzzle and it's really good. I'm very happy for the people that have them. I, of course, have had them on Steam for years and years, so I probably won't pick it up because I can just play it on any of my computers.
I'll play it on the Steam Deck.
There you go. Awesome. They also announced, and I think this one is honestly pretty huge, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal for the Nintendo Switch, which is really awesome. Those are all really great games. Persona 5 was up there at the same year as Breath of the Wild as a contender for Game of the Year, I believe. Characters are awesome in all of these games. The storytelling is really great. It is a JRPG, but it's so stylistic that sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And I love the games very, very much. They were very fun to play through, and I'm excited for people to play them on the Switch, especially since Joker was put in Smash Bros. A long time ago. And part of me is like, why didn't they try to get Persona 5 out on Switch faster to be out around the same time as Joker being in Smash?
The fact that this announcement came weeks after Xbox announcing it coming for PC and Xbox tells me that Sony had an exclusivity publishing deal for 5 years, because it's exactly 5 years since release. So I'm pretty sure it was in contract, and as soon as that contract expired, they pushed it out on everything.
Good point. Because it's also all on PC now too, right?
Yep.
Well,
PC,
clearly,
Xbox,
because it was announced
Switch.
at Microsoft.
Yeah. So, there's definitely a lot of Nintendo fans who don't own a PlayStation that are going to want to play Persona 5 because they want to see where Joker came from.
Yeah. It looks like Persona 5 isn't on PC yet, but Persona 4 Golden is.
Persona 5, it was announced though.
Right, PC. It was announced. Yeah. I was just looking at the current listing.
So Persona 4 Golden came out for PC. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. It came out during the pandemic, and it was a huge success on Steam to the point where Atlas came out and said, we didn't know people played games on PC. We just happened to throw this out there.
Classic Atlas.
So like Atlas said during that like conference, or like after Persona 4 came out for Steam, that they were going to also push other Atlas games to PC because this was a market that they weren't utilizing properly.
Well, I'm glad they are, because it's cool to have them on multiple consoles. You get more people playing. Yeah. But beyond all of that, I think that's about it. That was like some of the bigger stuff announced. Of course, there were other titles, but nothing that really caught my attention.
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much the direct. Like we said, like it's a lot of stuff that we already knew was coming, and we just got updates on, which was nice. And then we got some like, oh hey, that's cool looking games like Pac-Man World and Monkey Island and blank, and then also the announcement of Nier. But like nothing like a huge AAA exclusive reveal like Donkey Kong, or I guess they also said it was going to be third party. So a good one would have been, I don't even know, because we already got Monster Hunter. Like there's not a new Mega Man game.
A new Mega Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Or a new Beautiful Joe. That would have blown things away.
Oh, a new Beautiful Joe. Oh my gosh. That probably would have lit the internet on fire.
But we also got like the Battle Network games as well.
Oh yeah, that collection of Mega Man stuff.
Yeah. I've actually never played the Battle Network games, so
Me neither.
maybe I'll give it a try. It was kind of funny that they were like, and it comes with 10 games or whatever, and like 4 of them are just slightly different versions. That's like calling Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue different games. So they arbitrarily inflated the number of games, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh, well. But what was interesting about this showcase was they didn't give us any news about Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Right?
I am losing hope that it's coming this year.
Where is it? We got one trailer a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't heard a single thing since.
Yeah, they said 2022. Oof. To the fact that it just says 2022 without release date yet, and we are now in July, I don't think if it's coming this year, it has to get its release date announced like this month.
Yeah, I agree. For a game like Bayonetta, it needs to be announced and built up rather than just being released. I think there are a lot of fans that will get it, but it is the type of game that needs a marketing push to sell well.
Yeah.
But where was it? Why wasn't it in this direct?
So maybe Nintendo does have like an internal direct. The fact that they missed June, though, like if they're going to have a direct in September, which is the other month, like they normally have a big direct. And since Splatoon is coming out that month, I'm sure they want some big push for Splatoon around that time. So maybe a late August direct. It's possible Bayonetta gets revealed for like December in that direct. They could pull it off there.
They could, for sure, because Pokemon would still be the big holiday selling game for all ages. And then Bayonetta would be a good December game for the more adult seeking.
Well, and there's
fandom.
Also the Metroid Prime rumors still, and people are still doubling down on it. Like leakers are still saying like, yeah, Metroid Prime is still coming this year.
Yeah, but just Metroid Prime 1, not a collection.
So it might be that Metroid Prime is the October game, because like with Remake, you don't need that big of a marketing push, right? You could announce it in August at like some hypothetical direct that focuses on just the later half of that year. Have that direct focus on Splatoon for September, Metroid for October, Pokemon for November, and Bayonetta for December, and you've got a solid end of the year. And then also announce that you got the Switch Mini OLED, and like that's a banger direct. And like then they can wait until January where they start revealing the Switch 2 with Breath of the Wild 2 and their initial lineup for that console.
I could see it. It's amazing how our predictions have evolved over the year as Nintendo's thrown us more curveballs.
Yeah, Nintendo has been kind of floundering around this year, but I'm hopeful.
You are the chosen one. Just kidding. We just had high hopes and everything seemed to be lining up for this year to be so big. And then it just hasn't happened. So, I mean, it's still great games coming. I am beyond excited for Xenoblade. The fact that I stayed on those web pages to get the special edition as long as I did is a testament to how excited I am for it. And honestly, I am super tempted to get the Splatoon OLED Switch. I don't have an OLED Switch yet, and I've kind of wanted one for a while because I do play quite a bit in handheld, especially like Pokemon and such. So might be nice, but then again, Switch 2 right around the corner. Do I feel like it's worth spending $300, $350 on a console when I might be getting a new one next year? I don't know.
I'm only going to buy a new system if it has actual performance increase.
No, Jordan, the new chip that they're putting in it is from 2017.
How are they still making this?
I don't know. I don't know if there's much else to really say about this partner showcase and some of these rumors. I think we are excited for quite a few games on the list, as we've mentioned, but I think I'm about out of things to say. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I think I'm good.
All right. Let us know how excited you are for these games. You can actually chat with us on our Discord server by going to nintenfusion.com/Discord. That'll get you one of those invites. We have a nice little community, and we're always interested in chatting with people about Nintendo stuff. You can let us know how wrong we are about our speculations for the next year and a half, or if you agree with us and whatnot. On top of that, you can leave us a review and like the video on YouTube. Doing those things really does help the algorithms, help promote our content so that more folks can find the show and listen to it and enjoy it just like you do. With all that said, though, we really appreciate you listening to this episode of the NintenFusion podcast. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off and say thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.